Haley Bennett is definitely more than an off-brand Jennifer Lawrence. So this review is going to be about the 2020 drama that came out maybe a little bit more than a month ago called Swallow. Now, I thought it came out last year in 2019, so that's why I didn't make this review a priority. Turns out I watched it pretty much right when it came out. And I did want to do a review, but just put this on the back burner for other things. But then I started seeing a lot more reviews on it and saw that it did catch some heat, and I felt like I missed out. So I'm going to do a review anyway, because I do find this enjoyable. Then I started seeing a whole lot of reviews on it and people saying great things, and then that made me just realize, oh, this just came out and I missed out on doing a review. And I do want to do a review on it, so I'm getting around to it now. And I hope in talking about Swallow that you can find enough information in that to know if you would enjoy it or not. Swallow stars Haley Bennett as pregnant stay-at-home mother named Hunter. We follow her perilous journey in developing a disorder known as Pica. Pica has to do with being compelled or drawn to swallowing or eating various objects. In this case, Hunter is drawn to swallowing dangerous objects, usually of a hard consistency. Anybody who's seen a lot of old Maury episodes, the daytime talk show, there used to be a fair amount of episodes of people with this disorder. You know, if it wasn't an episode about who is the father of a baby, it was usually an episode about Pica. This is a tale of control, and actually would make kind of a good companion piece to the Invisible Man version that came out this year as well. On a side note, I would check that out as well. It has that actress from The Handmaid's Tale. Swallow could almost be like a prequel in an art house cinematic universe to Invisible Man even. Pregnant housewife Hunter seems to have a fairly ideal life, but it does seem pretty dull. This movie slowly unveils that it's not just a mundane existence living in this place, but she's also very controlled by her in-laws, her husband. She really truly doesn't have much in the way of how to be able to express herself. You know, her husband, Hunter's husband, allows her to be able to have control over a small little section of the house. She gets to make the decisions on the design of it. How nice of him. And when she wants to engage a dialogue and talk about this little area, he barely acknowledges her. He's like, I gave you this little area, you know, I'm so great, as it were. And even when she wants to create a dialogue about this little space with her husband, he doesn't really want to engage in that. He's just thinking this little bit of freedom he's given her is going to take up all her time and give her joy, you know. He really barely pays attention unless it really has to do with himself. With the directing, pre-planning, storyboarding, and all that, they really made at least a lot of the beginning, really a lot of the film, as kind of a silent film in many ways. You get to see this nice beachfront house as more of a prison. It's a very lonely existence, and you know, even some of the people she does get to see, which would be like her in-laws, they're very skeptical of her motivations of, you know, she's just being taken care of because she's with child, something along those lines in their belief. And her stepdad is played by none other than David Raish of Sledgehammer fame. I don't know if you've ever seen that old 80s sitcom. It was short-lived. It probably, you know, didn't need to be any longer than it was, but you know, it was funny and satirific in its own way, of like PI shows and things like that. And he's really good at playing jerks with power, you know, whether it's a comedy or a drama. There's a subtlety in the storytelling that lets you just know that Hunter is hungry for some sense of power or control. It's done very well. And this is what triggers her developing the condition of Pica, where, you know, she is swallowing gross or non-traditional things. Maybe in her case, not so much gross, but can be hard to watch. And in most cases, if you saw it on like Maury or something, or it would seem like it's coming out of nowhere. But this condition usually does arise out of a situation where somebody does feel like they have no sense of control. So that tracks with what I feel like I know about the condition, what I've looked up on it and things. So I do like when a movie that does have to do with a condition like that does attempt to portray it in a more realistic light. Because sometimes there's just a lot of like a comedic portrayal of it. You know, on Maury, it would show stuff like somebody eating cigarette butts. Or there was a show that I think was on cable television that they've put in snippets on Facebook Watch, where it's like this woman nibbling diapers, like diapers that have children's pee in them and stuff like that, which is, it's gross, but there's a weird, you know, gross humor to it too, and it's almost kind of like making fun of it. In the case of Hunter, it's usually more of like hard objects or dangerous shapes. You see this bizarre accomplishment in passing them and surviving. She even creates like a pedestal trophy area of sorts. And you do see like her proudness of being able to accomplish this weird thing, but it's an accomplishment, and not many people could necessarily do that. And you know, you can tell in her mind that is something she's probably thinking herself. You know, not many people could go through with this, and I am doing it. So Swallow mixes this like intense character study with a body horror that triggers me personally pretty hard. And even in doing so, it doesn't glorify Pica. That's my cat, by the way. It doesn't really glorify Pica. Come on. There really isn't more of the swallowing act shown than what's needed. They really keep it at that absolute exact, this is the amount to get the point across. This is one of those types of things that gets me to wince more than any type of gore film. There's definitely an object or two that I was definitely like really tensed up, hard to watch. So for me and many others, this does venture into the horror category. I would still probably put this more in the drama category, but it does go to that a bit. There's great ideas of seeing this family wanting to control the Pica, but the Pica being a way for Hunter to exert some control over themselves. So it really becomes this vicious cycle. I don't know if you'd quite call it a push and pull, but yeah, a cycle is probably the best word for it. And you see this family go to some extreme measures to their control, trying to get certain people in their professions to maybe act unethically or maybe keep information from them. The unethical part really resonated with me because you do see that of people, you know, in positions where they maybe have to take an oath or there's something that really they should not be doing. They get pressured into it, and money can do that, you know. You don't necessarily have a client, you don't have money, well then you get pressured. So that resonated with me. You see it in stuff as simple as, I think, Donald Trump talking about his height and weight. You know, one year he ends up taller than he used to be in order to stay the BMI lower. And I look at myself knowing how much I weigh and how much he weighs, and it's the similar height, and yeah. So that part resonated with me because it felt true to life, really, sadly. So when one of the characters does have a full realization of exactly what's going on, as well as their part in enabling it, their arc and everything having to do with that plays off very effectively. Swallow has a good synergy with, I'm gonna have to read this, director Carlo Mirabella Davis and actress Haley Bennett. This is one of those performances that is, you have to be the opposite of being hammy. You're not chewing up the scenery with it necessarily. Haley Bennett has to be pretty blank in the portrayal of her character, so, and this is a good thing. I do feel like this was the right choice, and there's other films like this as well. So she has to be compelling to watch, and the directing and writing has to hold up its end of the situation of making sure that the audience understands knowing what's going on in the character's head. And I do feel like they achieve that. Haley Bennett very much comes off as, just in looking at images, as maybe a knockoff Jennifer Lawrence, and there is a striking resemblance in a lot of ways, but I feel like that she was definitely the right choice for it. I felt that what she brought to the performance would probably be better than what Jennifer Lawrence would have likely brought to the performance. Not slighting Jennifer Lawrence, and I'm not an expert on acting, but I do feel like this was She portrayed it the right way, and it was the right choice to pick her. Bennett, chilling out, just mowing on some dirt like popcorn. That's like gonna be one of the moments of the year for me. And with this year having less movies in general because of the pandemic and all that, I think it's gonna more than hold up. A lot of that applies to the climax as well. It's so muted and understated and intense. So much of what happens in this film, and particularly what happens in the climax, are the things that are unsaid explicitly. So you can have this moment, such as in the climax, of multiple people being in a room, and what's going on means something different to each person involved in the scene. That's a fantastic juggling act to see happen, where some characters literally have no idea what's actually transpiring directly in front of them. Just zero idea. I like moments like that. You know, a lot of times comedies will do it, but in a drama in this fashion, very effective. You don't see it, I don't think, quite as much. I got blindsided by triumph in something that would sometimes, in some ways, be considered like a messed up act. Like, let's say, you know, messed up act would be like bribery or blackmail. There's something very much akin to that that is a triumph in this climax. It's pretty awesome. And it being awesome, but a messed up act is in a way like the film committing Pica on me. You know, so, and I feel violated. Swallow definitely melds drama with some horror and was constantly surprising along that way. Some people would call a film like this a slow burn, so if you don't like films that usually are termed that way, you still might want to pass on this. From my perspective, there was always a lot of good turns and there was always something to chew on. And when that happens in a slow burn, it never feels slow to me. There is something going on. It's just happening in a different type of action than you expect to see it in a lot of other films. And it's a tight 90 minutes, so for me, it flew by. Being a month or so out, this movie's still in my head. And I like when a film stays in my head in that way over a long period of time. You know, it definitely does have a lot for me to chew on even now a little bit. So drum roll! I'm giving Swallow 3.5 thumbtacks, real horror show. So leave a comment below. Tell me how you hate art house flicks like this and nothing ever happens. Hit one of those social media buttons. I'm sure that will help in some way. Watch the music video Turbo Killer, because Blood Machines is coming out and that's related to that music video, and that looks to be pretty cool. And that's probably what my next review is going to be after this. Maybe that'll come out before this, but check out Blood Machines. Check out Turbo Killer, because I know no matter what time this comes out, that's going to be out. Don't let spoilers run your life. Peace.